There are so many books coming out in the month of April. My TBR be trembling. So let's go over some of the new fantasy and sci-fi releases releasing in the month of April. We ain't wasting no time today. There's too many books to look at. Let's look at them books. Starting off on April 2nd, we have Disquiet Gods, the 6th book in the Sun Eater series by Christopher Rocchio. Now, Sun Eater is an absolute behemoth in the modern day sci-fi space, and this is book 6, so I don't think I really need to go too deeply into this one. I assume you will have at least heard of Sun Eater. Both Patrick and Daniel have made killer reviews on the books, so if you want to check out more about the series in particular, definitely check out there. But just a very basic premise, it is a first-person space opera epic. Hadrian Marlowe, a man revered as a hero and despised as a murderer, chronicles his tale in the galaxy-spanning debut of the Sun Eater series, merging the best of space opera and epic fantasy. So if you've been reading Sun Eater, book 6 is coming out on the 2nd of April. Also coming out on April 2nd, we have Play of Shadows by Sebastian de Castell. Dameless Shane Mantagne. I'm sure I've butchered that name, so I'm just going to do a cut and say I'm sorry. It's a very fantasy name. Picked a poor knight to flee a traditional duel. He has precious little hope of escaping the wrath of the Vixen, the most feared duelist in the entire city, until he stumbles through the stage doors of the magnificent Operato Belleza and tricks his way into a company of actors. An archaic law provides a temporary respite from his troubles, until one night a ghostly voice in his head causes Dameless to fumble his lines, inadvertently blurting out a dreadful truth. The city's most legendary hero may actually be a traitor and a brutal murderer, with only the help of his boisterous and lusty friend Berito, a beautiful assassin whose target may well be Dameless himself, and a company of misfit actors who just as easily see him dead. This failed son of two greatcoats must somehow find within himself the courage to dig up long-buried truths before a ruthless band of bravos known as the Iron Orchids come for his head. Oh, and there's still that matter of the Vixen waiting to duel him. This sounds like it will have a bit of found family, misfit crew with these actors, and I love this whole setting of it being like an actors and them performing, and this whole idea of a duel. It sounds very atmospheric in the way that it is set up. So if you're looking for something like that, definitely check out Play of Shadows on April 2nd. Coming out on April 3rd, we have a Beastcall by Caden Love. Now, this is a fantasy novella and a prequel to his debut that released in January, Elegy of a Fragmented Vineyard. Will a beast hunter continue his work now that he can hear the cries of his victims? Organ transplants are used to grant people with unforeseen power, changing politics and humankind forever. The continent is split, and its people are on the brink of war over this controversial new practice. Runneth, a beast bounty hunter, must decide his stance on this disturbing practice, as he has chosen to gain such power for his most deadly target yet. Will he become a hero in the eyes of the Zaysman, or a demon worse than those he faces? Set 4 years before the events of Elegy of a Fragmented Vineyard, Beastcall is sure to thrill readers both old and new. Much like his debut, this idea of organ transplants being used as the magic system is really, really intriguing and interesting, and I do think that the novella would be a good way to just try out Caden's work before jumping into a full-length novel, so this one's definitely on my TBR. Coming out on April 9th, we have The Last Phi Hunter. And look at that cover. That cover is absolutely stunning. Ambitious Phi Hunter and perpetual lone wolf, X, finds his road to glory interrupted when a heavily pregnant runaway enlists his help to escape through the ghost-infected forest. X, the youngest member of the Phi Hunters Order, has spent his life slaying the ghosts and demons of the Siaram Kingdom. While he takes great pride in his mystical trade, collecting dwindling bounties and peddling butchered spirit organs lacks the glory he craves. He's determined to hunt down Shar Allah, a demon of nightmares, of madness, who has eluded even X's masters. In a provincial village along the way, Arinya, a charming Moebaran champion, saves him from an ass-kicking despite being 9 months pregnant. In return, she asks him to escort her through the dangerous spirit-filled forest where ghosts salivate over the scent of the unborn. But as more of Aurinia's secrets emerge and the elusive demon nears, X must face dangers from both men and monsters, or lose not only the respect of the Phi Hunters, but the hunters themselves, along with the woman he's trying not to fall in love with. A ghost and demon-filled forest? A demon of madness? This sounds really cool. And it seems that the romance does play a pretty big aspect in the story, so if you're looking for some fancy romance, this is definitely one to check out. Coming out on April 9th, we have The Familiar by Leigh Bardugo. Leigh Bardugo is known for her Grishaverse, starting with the Shadow and Bone trilogy, and also Six of Crows, as well as Ninth House and Hellbent. And this is her new historical fantasy series based in the Spanish Golden Age. In a shabby house on a shabby street, in the new capital of Madrid, Luisa Cortado uses scraps of magic to get her through her days of endless toil as a scullion. But when her scheming mistress discovers a lump of a servant cowering in the kitchen is actually hiding a talent for little miracles, she demands Luisa use those gifts to better the family's social position. What begins as simple amusement for the bored nobility takes a perilous turn when Luisa garners the notice of Antonio Perez, the disgraced secretary to Spain's king. Still reeling from the defeat of his armada, the king is desperate for any advantage in the war against England's heretic queen, and Perez will stop at nothing to regain the king's favour. Determined to seize this one chance to better her fortunes, Luisa plunges into a world of seers and alchemists, holy men and hucksters, where the line between magic, science and fraud is never certain. But as her notoriety grows, so does the danger that her Jewish blood will doom her to the Inquisition's wrath. She will have to use every bit of her wit and will to survive, even if that means enlisting the help of Guillen Santangle, an embittered immortal familiar whose own secrets could prove deadly for them both. This sounds really interesting. I loved Ninth House by Leigh Bardugo, which was her debut into adult fantasy, and I'm really intrigued to see if that carries on to another series. I think her character work in Ninth House was really, really good, so guessing a character in this setting and situation sounds like it could be an absolute blast. Also on April 9th, we have Ghost Station, which is a sci-fi horror, which is something I really want to read more of. This one sounds really interesting. I think I heard of it from Holly Hart's books. I think she put it in as one of her most anticipated reads of this year, as she read Dead Silence by the same author. And as soon as I looked into Ghost Station, I knew I had to include it on my TBR too. It sounds really good. Space exploration can be lonely and isolating. Psychologist Dr. Ophelia Bray has dedicated her life to the study and prevention of ERS, a space-based condition most famous for a case that resulted in the brutal murders of 29 people. When she's assigned to a small exploration crew, she's eager to make a difference, but as they begin to establish residency on an abandoned planet, it becomes clear that crew is hiding something. While Ophelia focuses on her new role, her crewmates are far more interested in investigating the eerie ancient planet and unraveling the mystery behind the previous colonizers' hasty departure than opening up to her. That is, until their pilot is discovered gruesomely murdered. Is this Ophelia's worst nightmare starting? A wave of violence and mental deterioration from ERS? Or is it something more sinister? Terrified that history will repeat itself, Ophelia and the crew must work together to figure out what's happening. But trust is hard to come by, and the crew isn't the only one keeping secrets. Just how good does that sound? It sounds eerie and creepy and just awful and very psychological from the sounds of it. It's this sort of mistrust between the doctor, psychologist, and the crew. Are they starting to kill each other because of this sort of disease or psychosis that you get from space travel? Or is it something to do with this ancient planet? And apparently the psychologist is harboring secrets as well. There's just so much here. Also coming out on April 9th, we have The Book That Broke the World by Mark Lawrence. This is the sequel to The Book That Wouldn't Burn, which was one of my top reads of last year. I had an absolute blast with this. This follows two characters. We have Levira, who lives out in the desert, and we have Evar, who lives inside this massive library. And there begins the story of how their stories intertwine with this library and these themes of knowledge and power and history and invention, and it's very, very theme heavy with a lot of really interesting world building. Once you delve into the library and see the different aspects about it, it's so interesting to just learn more about. Now, I'm not going to go over the synopsis for book 1 because I think this is the type of story where it's even better if you go in knowing very little. So just if you want a sort of very theme heavy, idea driven fantasy library with this dual point of view, beautiful writing, really interesting world building, definitely check out The Book That Wouldn't Burn, and then you can pick up the sequel, The Book That Broke the World. It's a fantasy library, surely that just sells it there. Coming out on April 16th, we have The Son of Prophets by Brian Wilson. Now this is the sequel to, I got it. The Forsaken Planet, which I haven't read yet, but I'm very much looking forward to it. Because The Son of the Prophets is a book 2, we will go over the synopsis for book 1, and then once you read that, you'll know if you want to continue on to book 2 or not. When mysterious aircraft wreak havoc across Earth's skies, it is revealed that there are clusters of other planets where humankind resides. Distant worlds where the people wield the power of the stars themselves. It is an energy force that can bring about miracles, or, as the alien fleet's ruthless leader displays, unleash horrors beyond imagination. After experiencing a loss during the onslaught, Colton Sampson, an ordinary college student, vows to protect his loved ones at any cost. But to learn the power to do so, he must enlist into the army of the Universal Throne, a second alien force with its own agenda. With the revelation of a secret prophecy foretelling humans' demise, and Colton's improbable role in preventing it, he embarks alongside a diverse group of friends to the throne's capital, the planet of Ventara. There he faces prejudice from supposed allies, lifelike combat simulations that test him to his core, and the looming threat of a universal war. Only by embracing his true potential can Colton hope to secure the safety he seeks, in a universe that views him as nothing more than forsaken. A coming-of-age story about bonds of friendship and prejudice, all while this universal war is going on, this idea of this ancient prophecy and the demise of Earth itself. This sounds like a really interesting story. Coming out on April 23rd, we have The Crimson Court by Brendan Noble. The thing that really sold me with this one is the fact that there's flintlock guns and steampunk-like technologies. This is something that I don't see that much in fantasy. So whenever I do come across one, I'm like, well, on the TBR. Spirits haunt the realm of Zekais. Flee them, fight them, or wield them, but they bow to no master. The upstart matriarch of a fallen house, Cassia Nizik, has sworn to destroy the elusive Crimson Court, who assassinated her father. They are near immortal, wielding the spirits that once ended civilization a millennium ago. But she is a reacher of the realm of death, their worst fear. But to kill her deceitful foes, first she must find them. Cassia travels to the capital seeking allies, either brave or foolish enough to help her infiltrate the Crimson elites. Whether spirit hunter, princess, or thief, though everyone has a hidden agenda, and those with the widest smiles hold daggers behind their backs. Step into a new world of fantasy intrigue where flintlock guns, epic magic, gas lamp technology, and spirits clash amid shadowy bids for power. Revenge is sweet, but at what cost? The other thing that really caught me with this one is the being able to wield spirits. It makes me think of the Codex Alera books from Jim Butcher. I might be well off, I've not read it yet, it's not out yet. However, I absolutely love the magic system in this book, so I'm hoping it's something similar. Anything that has that sort of animal companion, almost Pokemon influenced style narrative connection with creatures and different animals, I'm there for it. It's such a cool dynamic because I love animal companions in books. And last, but most certainly not least, on April 25th, we have the Silverblood Promise by James Logan. Now, this was one of my most anticipated reads of this year. I mean, look at the cover. I was lucky enough to get an arc. I've not yet finished it, but I'm having an absolute blast with this story. It's so good. I highly, highly, highly recommend this one. Lucan Gordova is a card sharp, academy dropout, and, thanks to a duel that ended badly, the disgraced heir to an ancient noble house. His days consist of cheap wine, rigged card games, and wondering how he might win back the life he threw away. When Lucan discovers that his estranged father has been murdered in strange circumstances, he finds fresh purpose. Deprived of his chance to make amends for his mistakes, he vows to unravel the mystery behind his father's death. His search for answers leads him to Safrona, fabled city of merchant princes, where anything can be bought if one has the coin. Lucan only seeks the truth, but instead he finds danger and secrets in every shadow. For in Safrona, everything has a price, and the price of truth is the deadliest of all. Like I said, I am having an absolute blast with this book. I will try and get a review out before the release on the 25th of April, which will probably be over on Instagram, so follow me over there if you want to see that. Over on the Discord, we will be reading The Spear Cuts Through Water in April, so that is the buddy read for the month. You can join the buddy read completely for free in the description below. I've heard really good things about this, so I'm looking forward to it. But let me know, what are you planning on reading in the month of April? Are you going to pick up any of these, or are you working on the backlog? Thank you very much for watching. Outro. Okay, I set this up for the thumbnail shot so I can put the books here, but this is actually quite nice for like a video thing. Maybe I should start shooting it like this. Let me know, what do you think? Should this be the new background rather than me in the center over there? I quite like it. You can see more of the shelf that way.